The courtroom fell silent the moment she walked in, but it wasn't respect that filled the air. It was doubt. A woman in her late 50s stood at the defendant's table, her posture still military straight despite the years, her chest bearing a single ribbon most people only saw in history books. The Medal of Honor. The judge's eyes narrowed the second he noticed it. He leaned forward, his gavel tapping once, sharp and cold. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to remove that medal. This is a court of law, not a costume party." The words hit like a slap. Gasps echoed through the gallery. But she didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She just stood there, silent, her hand resting lightly over the star-shaped medal, as if protecting something sacred. And in that moment, no one in that room knew they were about to witness something that would shake them to their core. Her name was Sergeant Major Elena Reyes, though most people in that small Virginia courthouse had no idea who she was. She wasn't there for anything glamorous. A minor traffic dispute. A fender bender outside a grocery store 3 weeks prior. The other driver claimed she'd run a red light. Elna said she hadn't. It should have been simple. But nothing about that day would be simple. The judge, a man named Holloway, had a reputation. He was tough, no nonsense, and he didn't like anyone who he thought was trying to show off. And to him, that medal looked like a prop. "I said remove it," he repeated, his voice rising. "I don't care what you think you earned. In my courtroom, you follow my rules." Elena's jaw tightened. Her eyes, once soft, turned to steel. But still, she said nothing. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably. The prosecutor looked down. Even the other driver, the man suing her, seemed uneasy. Something didn't feel right. Then the doors at the back of the courtroom opened. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet click, followed by the slow, deliberate sound of boots on tile. Every head turned. A man in full navy dress whites stepped inside. 4 stars gleamed on his shoulder boards. An admiral. His face was weathered, aged by decades of service, but his eyes were sharp, and they were locked on the judge. He didn't ask permission. He didn't wait to be acknowledged. He walked straight down the center aisle, his presence filling the room like a storm rolling in off the ocean. Judge Holloway blinked. His hand, still holding the gavel, froze mid-air. "Your Honor," the Admiral said, his voice calm but edged with authority, "I believe you've made a mistake." The judge stammered. "Excuse me, who are you? You can't just—" "Admiral James Coltrane, United States Navy, retired," he said, cutting him off. "And the woman you just disrespected is one of the finest soldiers this country has ever produced." The room went dead silent. Elena's eyes glistened, but she didn't turn around. She knew that voice. She hadn't heard it in 15 years, but she knew it. Coltrane stepped closer, positioning himself beside her. "Sergeant Major Reyes didn't just earn that medal, Your Honor. She bled for it. She carried 6 wounded Marines out of an ambush in Helmand Province under enemy fire. Alone. She took 3 bullets doing it. And when they tried to medevac her out, she refused until every last one of her men was safe." His voice cracked just slightly. "One of those Marines was my son." The words hung in the air like smoke. Judge Holloway's face went pale. The prosecutor stood frozen. Even the plaintiff, the man suing her, slowly sat back down, his expression unreadable. Coltrane turned toward Elena now, his eyes softening. "You saved him, Elena. You carried him 2 miles on your back. You didn't stop. You didn't quit. And because of you, he got to come home. He got to meet his daughter. He got to live." Elena's lip trembled. She closed her eyes, trying to hold it together. But a single tear slipped down her cheek. She'd never spoken about that day. Not to the press, not to her family, not to anyone. It was too heavy, too raw. The screams, the heat, the taste of blood and dust. She remembered the weight of Coltrane's son on her shoulders, remembered him whispering, "Leave me, Sergeant. Save yourself." And she remembered her answer, spoken through gritted teeth and sheer will. "Not a chance, Marine. Not today." She'd carried him through hell. And she'd do it again. The Admiral's voice brought her back. "So with all due respect, Your Honor, that medal stays exactly where it is. And if you have a problem with that, you'll have to go through me." His eyes didn't waver. His tone didn't soften. He wasn't asking. He was telling. And everyone in that room felt it. Judge Holloway cleared his throat. His arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked a lot like shame. He set the gavel down carefully, as if it might break. I apologize, Sergeant Major," he said quietly. "I spoke out of turn. The medal stays, and—" He paused, glancing at the case file in front of him. "This case is dismissed. There's clearly been a misunderstanding." The plaintiff didn't argue. He just nodded, his gaze still on Elena, something like awe in his eyes. She exhaled slowly, her shoulders finally loosening. Coltrane placed a hand on her shoulder, gentle but firm. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, unable to speak. He smiled. "My son asks about you all the time. Says you're the reason he's a father now. The reason he got to build a life." Her voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. "I just did my job." "No," Coltrane said, shaking his head. "You did more than that. You gave us a miracle." As they walked out of the courthouse together, the late afternoon sun spilling gold across the pavement, Elena finally let herself breathe. The weight she'd carried for so long, not just that day in Helmand, but every day since, felt just a little bit lighter. Coltrane walked beside her, his hands clasped behind his back, his face thoughtful. "You know," he said after a moment, "my son wants to meet you again, properly this time. His daughter's turning 5 next month. He'd love for you to be there." Elena stopped walking. She looked at him, tears brimming again, but this time they weren't born of pain. They were something else, something warmer. "I'd like that," she said softly. Coltrane smiled, and for the first time in a long time, so did she. Because sometimes the battles we fight aren't the ones that make headlines. Sometimes they're quiet, personal, but they matter just as much. And sometimes, just when we think the world has forgotten, someone shows up to remind us. We are seen, we are valued, and we are never truly alone.